Well, hello everyone and welcome. I'm Katrine. I'm the CMO here with Pixelz. And today I have the honor of hosting this webinar live from our Barcelona office. So let's get this show off the ground. But first, and to be completely honest with everyone, I'm a little nervous today. Not only is this my first time hosting a live webinar with Pixelz, usually one of the brilliant people on my team get to be the host, but it's really reassuring to see so many familiar faces and name popping up in the chat today. Lots of people that I know recognize from the Flow events, the Flow community. So welcome and thank you everyone for joining us. And also, and this is the really exciting part. This is our most popular webinar to date. Never have we had this many registration. And of course, it's the AI model topic that's drawing everyone in today. So the reason why I was asked to host this webinar, well, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll know that I like to stay very active and I post a lot over there. So in the past couple of months, I've been posting quite a bit about AI models, getting lots of engagement, stirring up a ton of conversations. And apparently when you do that, that's when your team will ask you to host a webinar on the topic. So here we are. Luckily, you're not just left with me today. I have two seasoned industry experts joining me. But before I actually go ahead and introduce them, we have a poll that we'd like to get off the ground. So for all of the attendees here today, I would love to know what's your biggest hesitation when it comes to using AI model images. While you vote, let me introduce you to our guests today. Our guests are two industry experts who are very well known within the Pixelz and the Flow community. Both of them have not only attended several Flow events, but they've also been up on stage speaking at these events before. So first up, we've got Kevin Mason. Kevin is the founder of Studio Workflow. He's a consultant to some of the biggest names in global ecom. He's passionate about content creation and making studio processes run smoother. He launched his first content studio back in 2008, went on to work with Amazon and Topshop, and then brought the Studio Workflow concept to life in 2018. Next up, we've got Carlos Leon. Carlos is a creative manager. He's a photographer with a ton of international experience in fashion ecom. He's all about creating high quality visuals, building strong collaborative teams, and pushing creative boundaries. So I'm really glad to have both of you here today. Welcome to the show, and please enter the stage, Carlos and Kevin. Now, let's take a look at the results here from the poll. Is there anything here that surprises you? Kevin, if you want to go first.
I would say I'm not surprised. Image quality is the big thing that I would expect to see first, but then I would expect to see lack of expertise. Considering it's such a new subject, I'd expect lack of expertise to be a big factor right now.
How about you, Carlos? Is there anything that you're seeing here that aligns with what you're hearing from the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely hope for these results. I think something that is quite interesting is also the ethical concerns, not only maybe through brand values, but also what happens with diversity in different models created with AI. So I think this is all very interesting, but definitely quality of image would be my main concern as well.
I think that makes a ton of sense, honestly. All right, so we got the poll out of the way, and we've got two more sections coming up today. First, we've got this rapid fire session where we'll be talking about what's facts, what's fiction, and later we'll dive into how to actually approach AI models, both from a visual and a technical point of view. So I mentioned previously that we've seen a ton of engagement and a lot of debate on LinkedIn posts recently. We've got commenters wildly disagreeing on stuff like the costs of using AI models, uh, ethics around implementing AI models, and pretty much everything imaginable. So honestly, it feels like right now that it's a wild, wild west out there. So we wanted to bring some of this debate into this webinar and to be able to discuss these things in just a bit more detail. So let's kick off this rapid fire session with some of the common beliefs that we've seen mentioned and discussed in some of the LinkedIn comments that we've come by recently. Carlos, I would like to start with you here. Using AI models is cheaper than using traditional models. What's your take on this?
I'd say I agree, probably, yeah.
Kevin?
I'd say it definitely can be. It depends if you're starting from scratch each time. Do you have a model database, for example? But yes, it definitely can be.
Also, next one here, when you're using AI models, the quality is always bad. Or should we say worse than traditional photo shoots or traditional models?
I'd say so far it might be, but probably not for long.
Kevin?
For me, that ties into the first one. If you're trying to do it cheap and fast, then potentially the quality is going to be bad. But if you're putting real time and effort into it, then it can be really elevated and pretty good, to be honest. And as you've seen, people can't always tell the difference.
That's the thing, right? Then the next one we've got here, not human, right? Well, obviously they're not human. But is it a fact that you can always tell that the AI models are not human?
I think it's connected also to the quality. I think it's getting closer and closer. So I would agree for now, but I think we're really getting closer to very good quality.
Yeah, I think also that depends, like, how are you viewing it? If you're viewing it on a phone, potentially not. Maybe you can't always tell that. But also, are you viewing it as a creative or as a customer? And I think they're very different positions to take.
Yeah. And so the next one up here, with Pixelz, this is my personal favorite. No post-production is needed.
I disagree for now. It also depends on I think the quality and the final end of the images. But if you want to pursue a good enough image, I think post production is mainly needed.
Yeah, I would say if you don't need post-production, you're probably doing something wrong in terms of your quality control.
Have to say I'm happy to hear that. Next one up here, anyone can create an AI model in 10 minutes.
Let me take that. So I would say yes, you can do, but will it be good and will it fit your purpose? That's the big factor for me. And can you do it again and again? We're always talking ecom is about scale and consistency. So yes, you can do it, but will you want to do it in that way?
Yeah, I think I really agree with Kevin here. Just as much as anyone taking a camera and taking a photo shoot on.
Yeah. People and consumers hate AI models.
We should ask the chat, I think, for that. But for me, I would say it's probably 50-50 right now. Every time that I get in a discussion with people, I think it's about that in terms of how people dislike it or not. But I don't think the customer is having such a strong opinion right now. But I don't have any data to back that up, I have to say.
Yeah, same. I think there's a bit of everything. I think there's a lot of interest and a lot of expectation around it. Definitely some people hate it. Definitely some people love it. I think it's just another technology that is here to stay.
And I guess on that note, just to break format a tiny bit, do you think or do you have any data to actually suggest that AI models affect conversion rates negatively, positively?
I would say from my side, I don't have any data for that. No, there's a lot of interest, but I don't have anything that backs it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same from my side.
Yeah, still too soon, probably. Hopefully, with time, we'll be able to get some of that data. So at this point, I mean, I've seen people saying this on some of the comments on LinkedIn. At this point, AI models are really only for experimental use. Facts or fiction?
I'd say
No,
fiction.
yeah,
Go on, sorry, Carlos, go ahead.
yeah, I disagree as well.
I think for me, it's like a 2023 kind of position, you know. Things have moved along a lot since then.
No, yeah, definitely. We've seen many brands and many works being done already with AI, which are already high quality. So definitely, yeah, disagree with that.
And I guess the next one sort of ties into that as well. AI models can't be consistent.
I would say the default is not consistent for sure. I think you can get closer to consistency and people trying to solve that problem all the time in many different ways and instances. So yeah, I would say that's a default position.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is harder to be consistent, but we're also getting there, and it also depends on what kind of work you're producing.
And then the last one here, and I'm sure we could talk about this one for ages, right? The use of AI models, it's unethical. Kevin, do you want to go first on this one?
Can I like take the fifth on this? I feel that this would be the longest subject we could ever discuss, and it's like what area of ethical positioning are we going to take and look at for that? So I'm not going to make a firm stand on this right now.
Yeah, I could also not decide on this. It's really hard. It's really complex. There's too many factors involved. I think they are ethical for many reasons, and they are unethical for many reasons, and really depends on where you're standing and what you're looking for. So yeah, I wouldn't say.
And how about labeling, just to be a little bit more precise here? Do you think we should always label models that are AI generated?
I think from my side, I think it's a good thing that we could do that, but it depends, you know, if we are saying there's potentially a customer backlash, and if you're in an area that says you don't need to label, then, you know, maybe that's not going to affect your sales. But if you're in, say, EU and you have to, you know, it puts people at a disadvantage. So my preference would be, yes, it should be labeled. But whether that becomes the norm, I don't know.
Yeah, I also think it should be as much as highly retouched images or very fake images in some countries are actually mandatory to be labeled. But again, that really depends on what kind of culture you're part of and what kind of culture your company or your brand has. So I leave that to the companies definitely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the facts of fiction. I think, like I said before, it's still so new, feels like the wild, wild west, and so much to dive into. But let's talk about AI models from how to actually approach AI models from more of a visual perspective. If your brand is going to use AI models, how do you ensure that the images meet brand aesthetics, values, and is that any different from the way you approach traditional campaigns or model shots? And Carlos, I'll let you take this one first.
So I believe that one of the main topics that are that is worrying people is the change of teams and the change of the processes in that sense. And for me, the secret to achieve that result is actually to ensure that there is a team of experts around the whole process, regardless of it being AI or being physically shot. And I think that's where the secret lies. I think you need a set of professionals in different areas to really be able to create compelling images and in a very high quality. So that would be my take on that.
Kevin,
Yeah, I
have
think
any?
for me, all I would add on that is just having really clear creative. I think the challenge is obviously when you are working with a model in a team, you can kind of think in a moment and you can improvise sometimes, but it's a little bit more difficult to do that on AI, and people may be working in more isolated positions. So it's how do you open it up to a wider voice and have that really clear creative at the beginning?
And does this, in terms of this and comparing this to traditional photo shoots, what do you think is the biggest challenge or the biggest difference from working with more traditional models?
I'll leave that to you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. I would say that the biggest difference right now is we've established a clear way of working with models, with stylists, art directors, different creatives on set, how the voices happen on set. And that's really challenging if you're one or two people in a team at a computer. It's a completely different way of working, and people are really finding their way with that. But also how instantaneous or not the review and the feedback is. On set, art director may just tell you, oh, I don't like this, let's try something different. You may have made many iterations with AI before you get that feedback. So that's a real challenge.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, as I was saying before, it really depends on what team structure you can create around the project. If you do have, I think, what it should need in order to achieve a good result, which is an art director, a photographer, stylist, professionals in all the different disciplines working together to achieve that result, then is going to really condition the way that it's been done. I think one of the also main topics that people are talking about is this is only going to be done by one person on in a room and in 5 minutes, and I think that can be the case if you're looking for something very cheap looking and for something very very fast, but not if you're looking for maintaining the same kind of quality that we have achieved through photography and other techniques. So for me, that's where the concept is really.
What are the things that you think brands need to consider when integrating AI-generated images with traditional photography? And this could be in terms of product. I think it could be in terms of the imagery. Is it ecom PDP? Is it more elevated campaigns? Can we mix AI-generated models with traditional model shots? And how about studio workflows? Any takers here?
I can jump in on some of that for sure. I think a couple of things you've kind of identified, like where is that content going? Is it social first? Is it website? Is it PDP? There are some brands I think that are mixing AI models and then some traditional mannequin or a traditional PDP model at the same time. And I think that's quite nice. One of the questions then is, are you trying to show a difference, or are you trying to integrate all of those things together and sort of have them working in parallel? And I think that can be a real challenge. One of the things also in terms of products, for me, it's maybe a potential thing. Maybe you've got some evergreen product that you need to reshoot and you've already got some of the posing and so on for that. Maybe AI is a good substitute for that in that particular situation. I'll let Carlos jump in, and then we can also speak about workflow as well afterwards, if that makes sense.
Yep. I think it really depends on what kind of work you're after, really, what kind of work you're covering. I think, ecom, fast digital fashion, even personalization can be great to be done with AI, depending on, your quality standards. But if then you're looking for something more editorial, for, more exquisite and more special campaigns, kind of even collections, different collections of more specific products, I think is going to be harder to be made via AI in high quality. Also because of the details, because how well you want to represent this, and also how fast you're going to consume that as a customer, right? So that would be my take on that. Really basing it into the depending on the kind of work that you want to present.
And
Also,
Kevin,
I was just going to say, Catherine, you mentioned, at the beginning, what should brands consider? I think the big question is like, why why are you being asked to use AI? Who is asking you? What's the kind of incentive coming? Is it just cost, or is it because you can elevate, or is it just someone's interested in it right now? And those are real challenging things, as everyone knows that works in a studio. How reactive are you being? Are you just trying the new thing? And that can be scary and also maybe not the right thing to do sometimes, because you also have to consider the new workflow that you adopt may be super disruptive for everyone in the studio. It might be scary. It might, be lack of engagement, or loads of people might want to jump onto it. And then, you've got challenges involved in that process as well.
Yeah, I think that's something very interesting because one of the questions that maybe brands should be asking themselves in that regard is, how do they want to be seen? How do they want to be perceived? Is it more important for you to be innovative? Is it more important for you to be authentic or modern or traditional or honest? Also regarding maybe the labeling of the pictures, how do you want to be seen and what do you want to communicate? Is what's more important to you and to your customers, and then probably that will set the path to whatever choices they will make in the direction of the AI.
And Carlos, do you think you could still be authentic and use AI models, or are those two opposites?
I think you can. I think you can. I think we're seeing more and more of it. I think we're seeing more solutions and more projects regarding AI models that are, kind of disrupting the industry just because they're new and just because they're very innovative. And I think that's authentic in a way. I wouldn't personally go for just reproducing and just being practical about it. But I will try to find some other meaning and some other value in the technology than just being faster and being cheaper, right? Which of course is a huge part of every company's processes. But I think there is more to it than that, and I think what's more exciting about the whole change happening now is that we need to figure it out.
Absolutely. And I think, Kevin, you wanted maybe to speak a little bit more about workflow, but if we talk about it from a little bit more of just a technical perspective, I personally think, and if you disagree, just let me know, but I think the tech is here now. And I think if AI models are in fact cheaper than working with real models, why are more brands not rolling them out on a larger scale? And Kevin, do you think that's a workflow thing?
I think it can be, but also, from my experience, the ecom machine never really stops. And it's quite hard to suddenly disrupt a workflow and say, hey, we're going to trial something, introduce something new, we're going to test it. You've got to get backing and support, maybe budget to do those things. And you've also got to be aware you're disrupting other people's kind of general ways of how they establish working. So there's also that, but nervousness about what if we do it and we do it wrong, or what if we do it and it's really great and suddenly people are facing the fact that my job has changed, or they're shifting into a different role completely. So I think, yeah, there's a kind of hesitancy in the industry unless you've got a lot of time and resources. And if you're shooting seasonal, that's a little bit sort of different. And shooting to sample, it's a little bit easier to trial those things.
Mhm.
It's a really good point with the ecom machine never stopping. I've talked to a lot of ecom studio leaders at a lot of our flow events, and one of them just looked at me and said to me, "Is like, why are you even talking about AI? I just need to get the next collection online in time." And I think we probably have a lot of studio leaders stuck with that, right? With just huge volumes, lots of products that needs to go up, and then disrupting that workflow, I'm sure, can be a real challenge.
Yeah, and also, asking for more budget or to divert budget right now in this environment is quite tricky. And, at the beginning, it's going to potentially be more expensive. Eventually, you may scale it and it may become cheaper. But even as a studio director, that's a big ask for something that's unproven, maybe for your brand.
Absolutely. Before we jump into a few of the questions that we've got from people in the chat here today, I'm just going to leave both of you with one final question. Are AI models the future? Who wants to go first?
Sure. I would say that wasn't sure to the answer, by the way. I would say it's a hybrid thing. It's very new. People are excited. or scared, but I think you will see a lot more of a mix of AI and PDP models, potentially also a lot more third-party studios that are reliant on AI and trying to outsource and capture that market for sure.
Yeah, I'd say absolutely agree with Kevin. I'd say it's already the present and it will be part of the future. It doesn't mean that it will be the only future, definitely. And I think that's what's exciting about it, right? That we can also see how much of it do we want to integrate, how much of it do we want to consume as well, not only produce, but as well consume. And how can we all shape together how this is going to look like in the future. But definitely it will be part of the future already in the present, I guess.
That's very true. And I also like how you say that it'll be part of the future, not the only future. But let's jump into a few of the questions here, because the first question I've got up here, there's actually a question that's coming from the LinkedIn live stream, and it's a big one. We only got a few minutes left, but I think it's something we need to touch on just a little bit more. What are your thoughts about diversity? This is a tricky one, right? How can we ensure that AI imagery is inclusive of age, size, ethnicity, and disabilities, etc.? Kevin, I know you've spoken to this before.
Sure. I mean, I think we all have pretty strong feelings about this, but the first one is, I think, how do you trust your creatives? Who are you putting your trust in? How are you empowering them to make the right decisions? Who are the people that are in the room making those decisions? I think if you get those things right, I have a lot of faith in most of the teams and the brands that I've met. So I think if you get those voices and connect them, then there's a great way of doing this. I don't think we should ever say, okay, this replaces the diversity issue that we have within fashion still. But it is about getting the right voices in the room at the beginning, at least.
Is this something that you've been thinking about as well, Carlos?
Yeah, definitely. I think diversity is one of the topics that need to be addressed. As you have seen, also, if you have followed the evolution of the different softwares and models of for AI generation, it's been very interesting to see how they have been adapting as well to the needs. Before, it was definitely way less diverse than it can be now, and just because of that, it should be a topic front of the line. In my opinion, I think we need to take real care of this. I think diversity in fashion and other, more commercial uses has been a real problem during many years. And I think this is something that, as much as we have done in real life or traditional methods, we really need to fight for diversity within AI as soon as possible.
I think just to add on that, I think what Carlos just said about taking real care is super important. If anything is going to damage your brand, it could be this if you get it wrong. So I think everyone in the chat would be aware of that also, though.
And the customer. I mean, also as a new technology that many people are, just concerned in different ways about. If they're not being represented, if they're not being seen, it could very easily go wrong for anyone producing that kind of content.
Very true. All right, I think it's time to end, and let's end on that note. As we're wrapping up today, just make sure to keep an eye on your inboxes. We do have another webinar coming out in a couple of weeks, and that webinar will touch on the same subject, but from a little bit more of a hands-on practical point of view. And we'll go into a little bit more details about how to actually get started if you're looking into using AI models. So thank you so much, Carlos and Kevin. It was a real pleasure to have you with me here today. And thank you to everyone who attended, joined in, and asked questions. Thank you, and see you all later.